Have you ever wondered if people actually notice you the way you hope they do? What if I told you that right now, without you even realizing it, there's someone who already finds you more attractive than you think? The crazy part is, it has nothing to do with your looks, your body, or the clothes you're wearing. In fact, the reasons she notices you are hidden in the things you probably overlook about yourself every single day. Stay with me, because by the time you hear this, you'll realize you've been far more magnetic all along than you ever gave yourself credit for. Think about this for a second. When you walk into a room, before you've even said a word, people already feel something from you. That's energy. It's the invisible thing you carry with you everywhere, and it speaks before your mouth even opens. Most people underestimate this. They think attraction comes from what they're wearing, or if they've got the perfect haircut, or if they hit the gym hard enough. But have you noticed how some people don't fit the perfect mold at all, and yet everyone is drawn to them? That's because their energy pulls people in. It's the way you hold yourself, the calm in your presence, the spark in your eyes, the comfort you radiate without trying. Confidence isn't about being the loudest person in the room. It's about walking into the room like you already belong there. When you can show up without trying to prove anything, that relaxed self-assurance becomes magnetic. She notices it. She notices how you make the space feel different just by being in it. And that is something no mirror reflection will ever fully reveal to you. You know what else she notices? The little things you try to hide or downplay about yourself. The quirks, the odd habits, the parts of you that you sometimes wish were smoother, cooler, more polished. But here's the twist. Those are the very things that make you unforgettable. That laugh you think is too loud. It's the sound that makes her smile without even meaning to. The way you tilt your head when you're curious, the way you get animated when you talk about something you care about, those aren't flaws, those are signatures. They're what make you. We live in a world that teaches us to sand down our edges, to blend in, to fit some perfect version of what attractive is supposed to look like. But the truth is, perfection is boring, it's forgettable. Authenticity is what stops someone in their tracks. When you lean into who you are instead of trying to filter it, you give her something real to connect to. And real will always outshine perfect. And here's something you probably don't give yourself enough credit for: how you treat people. Attraction isn't just about chemistry, it's about character. She notices the way you talk to the waiter, the patience you have when someone's struggling, the kindness in how you show up for people who can't give you anything back. Those tiny moments that you think go unseen, they don't. They reveal who you are at your core, because let's be honest, looks can catch her attention, but it's the way you behave that keeps it. Respect, kindness, generosity. Those things leave a lasting impression that no outfit or hairstyle ever could. When she sees you treating people with dignity, when she feels your decency in action, it elevates you instantly in her eyes. That's when attraction deepens, because she realizes she's not just drawn to how you look, but to who you actually are. There's something else she can't help but notice: you come alive when you talk about the things you love. Think about it: when your eyes light up, when your hands start moving because you're excited, when your voice carries that spark of passion, you become magnetic without even realizing it. Passion has a way of drawing people in because it shows depth. It shows you have something that fuels you, something bigger than small talk or surface-level chatter. She's not just hearing your words, she's watching the way you light up when you speak, and that's irresistible. Because passion isn't about being perfect at something. It's about caring. It's about showing that there's fire inside you. And when she feels that fire, it makes her want to lean closer, to know more, to feel part of the world you're so lit up by. Passion is contagious, and the moment you reveal it, you stop being just attractive. You become unforgettable. And here's the part you probably try to cover up: the imperfections, the scars, the mistakes, the parts of your story you sometimes wish you could erase. But here's the irony: those are the things that make you relatable, human, and deeply attractive. People don't fall for perfection. They fall for the parts of you that remind them they're not alone in their own flaws. When you own those imperfections instead of hiding them, you send out a message: I'm not pretending to be flawless, I'm real. And that's powerful. She's not looking for a robot who's never messed up. She's looking for someone who has lived, stumbled, learned, and kept going. Vulnerability is magnetic because it takes courage. And when she sees that courage in you, when she sees you comfortable with your rough edges, it doesn't push her away. It pulls her closer, and may be the most powerful part of all: how you make her feel when she's around you. Attraction isn't always about what you look like. It's about the emotional experience you create for someone. You could be the most stylish person in the room, but if being with you feels heavy or draining, it doesn't matter. On the other hand, you could walk in without saying much, and if your presence makes her feel lighter, safer, happier, suddenly you're unforgettable. She notices when you make her laugh in a way that feels effortless. She notices when you actually listen, when you give her the sense that she's seen and understood. She notices the ease you bring, the calm, the spark, the way time feels different around you. People don't remember every word you said, but they never forget how you made them feel. And that, more than anything else, is why you're already far more attractive than you think. Confidence is one of those things people get so wrong. They think it's about being the loudest person in the room, the one cracking the biggest jokes or commanding all the attention. But real confidence isn't about volume. It's about comfort. It's the quiet strength of someone who doesn't need to prove anything because they already know their value. And that kind of confidence is magnetic in a way that showing off never will be. She notices when you're relaxed in your own skin. She notices when you don't chase validation, when you don't feel the need to constantly perform or impress. That calmness, that ease, creates trust. It says, I'm good with who I am, and I don't need you to approve of me for me to feel it. That's powerful, because when someone doesn't need approval, they suddenly become the person everyone wants approval from. It flips the script, and that subtle confidence, the kind that doesn't scream, but whispers it's one of the most attractive things you already have. And here's something most people miss: presence is always more powerful than perfection. You could spend hours in front of the mirror, obsess over every detail of your appearance, and still not leave the impact you're hoping for. Because at the end of the day, she won't remember if your shirt matched your shoes or if your hair was flawless. What she will remember is the way it felt to be with you in that moment. When you're truly present, when you're not distracted or worried about how you're coming across, something shifts. You give your attention fully, and that attention is rare. It makes her feel like she matters, like nothing else in the world exists but that conversation, that laugh, that silence you're sharing. Presence creates a memory that outlives perfection, because perfection fades quickly. But presence leaves an emotional mark. And that's what makes you stand out long after the moment has passed. One of the most magnetic qualities you can ever develop is self-acceptance. And I don't mean the Instagram version of self-love, where people post quotes about embracing themselves while still secretly tearing themselves apart inside. I mean the kind of deep acceptance where you stop fighting who you are and start owning it. Your flaws, your past, your strengths, your gifts, your weird little quirks, all of it. Because here's the thing, when you accept yourself, it doesn't just change how you feel about you. It changes how other people feel about you too. Think about the times you've been around someone who's at war with themselves. You can feel it. They're constantly second, guessing what they just said. They're apologizing for existing in tiny ways. Sorry for talking too much. Sorry I look a mess today. Sorry, I'm being awkward. Their body language is tight. Their eyes dart around. Their energy feels like they're shrinking themselves so they won't be judged. And what happens? People mirror that energy. When someone broadcasts "I'm not enough," others unconsciously start believing it too. Now compare that with someone who's not perfect, who might stumble over their words, who might wear something simple instead of show, stopping, who might have scars, stretch marks, or a little awkwardness, but they own it. They walk into the room without apology. They don't waste time over-explaining themselves or begging for approval. They just are. That presence is magnetic because self-acceptance radiates outward. It tells the world, I'm good as I am, and if you see me, great. If you don't, that's fine too. That's the energy people can't resist. Let me give you a real-life example. Imagine two people telling a story at a dinner table. Person A is nervous. They keep stopping halfway through their sentences to check if people are listening. They laugh awkwardly and say things like, "Oh, I'm not telling this right," or "You probably don't care." The story might be funny, but the energy they're giving off makes everyone uncomfortable. Now person B tells almost the same story, but with a completely different attitude. They're not slick, they're not perfectly polished, they're not even the best storyteller, but they're enjoying it. They're laughing at themselves, they're comfortable with the pauses, and they're not constantly looking for permission to keep going. Even if the story is silly, people lean in. Why? Because person B is okay with themselves, and that makes everyone else feel okay too. This is the power of self-acceptance. When you accept yourself, you free others to relax around you. You create space for connection because you're not performing or hiding, you're just being, and that honesty, that comfort in your own skin is unbelievably attractive. Here's the trap most people fall into. They think attractiveness is about fixing themselves first. When I lose 10 pounds, then I'll feel confident. When I finally get the perfect wardrobe, then I'll show up more boldly. When I get rid of these flaws, then I'll start believing I'm enough. But that's backwards. You don't become attractive by waiting to be perfect. You become attractive by accepting yourself while you're imperfect. Because if you can only love yourself on your best days, when everything is polished, then you're not loving yourself. You're loving a performance. Real self-acceptance is about loving yourself even when you're messy, even when you're tired, even when you don't look or feel like your best. And let's be clear, acceptance doesn't mean complacency. It doesn't mean you give up on growth or stop striving for better. Self-acceptance is not saying, "This is who I am, take it or leave it, I'll never change." It's saying, "This is who I am today, and I'm okay with that. I can still grow, I can still improve, but I'm not going to hate myself in the process." That distinction is huge. Because self-loathing never creates lasting change, it just breeds insecurity, desperation, and fake confidence. But when you accept yourself as you are, growth becomes easier because it's not rooted in fear. It's rooted in love. Now, Let's talk about how this shows up in attraction. Imagine you're on a date. If you're sitting there trying to impress the other person, your energy screams, "I need you to like me in order for me to feel good about myself." That desperation repels even if it's subtle. But if you walk into that same date with the mindset, "I already like who I am, I'm proud of my journey, and I don't need this person to validate me," suddenly everything changes. You're freer, more playful, more relaxed. You tease more, you laugh more, you share openly instead of calculating every word. And that's when people fall for you, when you're not performing, but when you're living. Here's another truth: insecurity is loud, but so is acceptance. Insecurity makes people overcompensate, bragging, showing off, pretending. Acceptance creates quiet power. You don't have to brag when you're okay with yourself. You don't have to fake confidence when you're genuinely at peace with your flaws. That peace is attractive because it's rare. Everyone is chasing validation. The person who doesn't need it instantly stands out. And don't think she doesn't notice. She notices when you don't flinch at your own imperfections. She notices when you tell a story about your mistakes without shame. She notices when you laugh at yourself instead of crumbling under self-consciousness. That signals strength because it shows you're not owned by your insecurities. And strength, quiet, grounded strength, is one of the most attractive qualities anyone can have. Think of the people you've been drawn to in your life. Chances are it wasn't always because they were the most conventionally good-looking person in the room. It was because of how they carried themselves. The guy with the scar who didn't try to hide it. The woman with the bold laugh that made everyone else loosen up. The friend who didn't care about being cool, but just enjoyed themselves fully. Those people stick in your memory because they gave you permission to be human too. There's something I call the freedom effect. When you accept yourself, you give others freedom to do the same. Imagine being with someone who is constantly trying to impress you. They make you feel tense, like you have to perform too. But if you're with someone who's relaxed in their own skin, you breathe easier, you don't feel judged. You feel safer being yourself. That safety is irresistible. That's why some people become the ones everyone wants to be around. Not because they're perfect, but because their self-acceptance creates a gravitational pull. And here's the twist. You don't even have to say you accept yourself for people to feel it. It shows up in your body language, in your eyes, in your tone of voice. It shows up in whether you can hold silence without panicking. It shows up in how you handle rejection, not as proof that you're unworthy, but simply as redirection. That's when people say things like, "I don't know why, but there's just something about you." That something is your self-acceptance radiating outward. Let me ask you this: what would change in your life if you truly accepted yourself? How would you walk into a room differently? How would you approach conversations, dates, opportunities? How much energy would you save if you stopped worrying about every flaw and just started living? Imagine what you could do with that energy. Imagine how much more magnetic you'd be if you weren't trying to hide. Most people never get there because they're stuck in comparison. They're busy measuring themselves against someone else's highlight reel. Someone taller, richer, fitter, funnier. But comparison is endless. There will always be someone better in some category. The moment you chase external validation, you're already losing. The win is in realizing you don't need to win. You just need to be you, fully, unapologetically. And here's what's wild. Self-acceptance doesn't just make you more attractive to others. It makes you more attractive to yourself. When you stop fighting who you are, you start to actually like your own company. You stop needing constant distraction or approval. You enjoy your own silence. You trust your own decisions more, and when you like yourself, others naturally start liking you too, because the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every relationship you have with others. So if you've ever wondered why she notices you more than you realize, this is one of the biggest reasons. It's not the shirt you wore, it's not the way your hair looked that day, it's the way you were comfortable in your own skin. That comfort, that acceptance, radiates outward and draws her in. It makes her want to be around you, not because you're flawless, but because you're free. And freedom, when it comes to attraction, is magnetic. You spend so much of your life inside your own head that you forget other people are watching you from the outside. You're hyper, aware of every flaw, every stumble, every little detail you think ruins the way you come across. But here's the truth you've been missing. While you're busy picking yourself apart, she's already noticing the things you don't even realize you're giving off. You think attraction starts when you've fixed yourself, when you've become more polished, more confident, more successful. But in reality, you're being noticed already, right now, as you are. Think about the last time you walked into a room. Maybe you were nervous. Maybe you didn't feel like you looked your best. You were so focused on adjusting your clothes, checking your phone, trying to look busy, that you didn't realize someone across the room caught a glimpse of you. And in that glimpse, they saw something you completely missed. Maybe it was the way you smiled politely at a stranger. Maybe it was the way you brushed your hair back absent-mindedly. Maybe it was the way you leaned in when someone else was speaking. Tiny moments that you didn't give a second thought to, but someone else did. We're terrible judges of our own attractiveness because we see ourselves through the harshest lens. You've probably looked in the mirror and thought, ugh, my nose is too big, my skin isn't perfect, I look tired. Meanwhile, someone else sees you and thinks, wow, there's something about them I can't stop looking at. You fixate on details, but she's noticing the whole picture. And often the very thing you think is a weakness is the thing that makes you stand out. Here's what I've learned from coaching people for years. Attraction is happening all the time in ways you don't see. You think it's about the one dramatic moment, the big gesture, the perfectly timed joke, the flawless outfit. But most of the time, it's subtle. It's in the way your eyes light up at the right moment. It's in the way your voice softens when you're being sincere. It's in the natural rhythm of you being you. And because you're not on the outside looking in, you miss it. But she doesn't, she sees it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a friend tell you, oh my God, that person was totally checking you out, and you had no clue? That happens because we're not wired to notice when people are noticing us. We're too busy managing our own self-criticism. But what if I told you that's happening more often than you think? That people are noticing you in small ways, subtle ways, even silent ways, and you're the last to realize it. Here's a story for you. I once worked with a guy who told me he'd never been attractive to women. He said no one noticed him, he was invisible. But when I asked him about his daily life, he told me about how he always held the door open for people, how he always cracked jokes in his office to make people laugh, how he was the one his friends called when they needed advice. He thought these things were nothing. But when I asked a few women in his life, they said, oh, we all notice that about him. He has this warmth, this reliability. He's the kind of guy you just feel good around. See, he thought he was invisible, but he was already being noticed. It just wasn't in the way he was expecting. And that's the catch. You think being noticed has to look like a movie scene. Someone stares at you from across the bar, sparks fly, dramatic music plays. But real life is quieter. She notices the way you listen. She notices the way you laugh from your belly instead of holding it back. She notices the confidence in your silence, the comfort in the way you stand, the steadiness in your eyes. These are the things that build attraction, and they're happening right now, whether you acknowledge them or not. Do you know what the saddest part is? Most people are already being noticed, but they sabotage it. They don't believe it, so they act like it's not true. A woman looks at them, and instead of smiling back, they look away nervously. A compliment comes their way, and instead of accepting it, they downplay it. Oh no, I don't look good today. Someone laughs at their joke, and instead of owning it, they dismiss it. I'm not that funny. Every time you do that, you're pushing away the very evidence that you're already attractive. Imagine if you stopped doing that. Imagine if, instead of rejecting every sign that someone notices you, you leaned into it. You smiled back. You accepted the compliment with a simple thank you. You let yourself believe that maybe, just maybe, someone actually does see you in a way you don't see yourself. That's when your world changes, because you stop acting invisible and you start living like someone worth noticing. And that shift makes you even more magnetic. The reality is, you'll never fully know how many people are noticing you. Because not everyone tells you, not everyone makes it obvious. Sometimes the person sitting across from you is quietly admiring the way you carry yourself. Sometimes the person at work is inspired by how you handle stress, but they don't say it out loud. Sometimes someone you've never even spoken to is drawn to your smile, your laugh, your kindness. Just because they haven't announced it doesn't mean it isn't happening. You're already being noticed. You just don't have the receipts in your hand. Here's the part that blows people's minds. The fact that you're already being noticed doesn't depend on you being flawless. People aren't attracted to perfection. They're attracted to humanity, to warmth, to life, to authenticity. So, while you're busy holding yourself to an impossible standard, she's noticing the things you think disqualify you. The crooked smile you hate, that's what makes you memorable. The way you get passionate and stumble over your words. That's what makes you endearing. The way you show up for people even when you don't feel like enough yourself. That's what makes you magnetic. And if you're thinking, but Matthew, if I'm already being noticed, why don't I feel it? Why don't I have the proof? Here's why: because you're measuring being noticed only by grand outcomes. You're thinking in terms of instant love stories, instant validation, instant proof. But being noticed is not always about getting asked out or getting praised directly. Being noticed means you're living rent, free in someone's mind, even if they never told you. It means you've already impacted someone's day, even in a small way. It means you've left a mark without realizing it. Here's a challenge: start acting like someone is already noticing you, because they are. Walk into the room like someone might be watching your energy, because they are. Speak like someone might be hanging on your words, because they are. Treat yourself with respect like someone might be learning how to treat you, because they are. The more you act like you're already being noticed, the more natural it feels, and the more you begin to embody the truth of your own attractiveness. And here's the deeper lesson: when you finally accept that you're already being noticed, you stop chasing and start living. You stop begging the world for validation, and you start radiating your own. That's when you stop trying to be attractive and just become attractive. Not in some distant future when you've fixed everything about yourself, but right now, in this moment, as you are. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, "No one sees me, no one notices me, I'm invisible," remember this: You've been underestimating your own impact. You've been discounting the glances, the laughs, the subtle ways people respond to you. You've been blind to the fact that you are already, in this very moment, more magnetic than you give yourself credit for. And once you start to see it, even a glimpse, you'll never be able to unsee it again, because the truth is, you're already being noticed. You always have been. So here's what I want you to take away. You've been living under the illusion that attraction is something you have to earn, something you only deserve once you've hit a certain standard. But the truth is, you've already been giving off more than you realize. Your energy, your authenticity, your kindness, your passion, your imperfections, the way you make people feel, your quiet confidence, your presence, your self-acceptance. All of these things have been working in your favor long before you gave yourself credit for them. While you've been busy doubting yourself, someone has already noticed the way you walk into a room. While you've been nitpicking every flaw in the mirror, someone else has already been drawn to the exact thing you thought made you less. While you've been waiting for the day you finally become enough, you've already been more than enough in the eyes of people who see you clearly. Attraction isn't something you create by pretending to be someone else. It's something you reveal by allowing yourself to simply be. And the moment you stop chasing the idea of perfect and start owning who you are, you don't just become attractive, you become unforgettable. So the next time that voice in your head tells you you're not noticed, not enough, not worthy, remember this. You are already being seen, you are already being felt, and you are already far more attractive than you think.